if you go back through the archives of our episodes, we have referenced your shopping habits, and the only caveat was to stay on the south side of a comma. Does that change in retirement?
Welcome to another episode of Bitches in the Kitchen.
I'm Janet.
I'm Chris.
I'm Joanne.
We're interviewing like we're on the news today. So Joanne, tell us. No, I'm just kidding.
We should have brought a microphone.
Welcome to today's episode. You want to tell?
Do I want to tell?
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Why are we here? Because I retired.
Woohoo! Raise your glasses. Raise your
Celebration.
glasses
Oh, yeah.
to Joanne. Not in front of your face. Joanne, being one of our dearest friends, is the first to not only retire from the traditional world of work, but
That's W2.
you were with your company your entire career.
That's correct.
Which is stinking unheard of today. No, did you get a gold watch? Will you get a gold watch?
I'll get something. I don't know
We'll be
what,
curious.
but I'll get something.
We'll have to invite you back. There's a couple of things you take from that, yes. We have other friends other than each other.
Also true.
So you should
Joanne
be
is our
very-
only other friend.
You should be very happy for us that we actually have friends.
How many years did you work at your employer?
Exactly 36 years.
36 years.
I graduated from college on a Friday, started with GE on a Monday.
Were you in the same department? Did you move through multiple departments?
I started as a field engineer in service, install specialist, was a director of service, a whole bunch of operations roles. And then about 20 years ago, I took my role that I retired from, which was a director of project management.
I don't even know what any of that does. All I know is that she used to be on the phone all day long. And if I walked in, she would come out with her headset on and go, and then I could talk.
What made you have the first thought of retirement?
I'd always heard that when it's time, you know. I've also told everybody that's ever reported to me, if you wake up one day and you don't want to go to work, everybody has days like that.
I was good.
But if it starts to being over and over and over again, then you need to make a change. Come talk to me before your performance suffers, because we don't want you to go to a new role and I can't recommend you for the new role. I woke up one day late last year and went, I don't want to go to work. First time in my career it had ever happened. I don't want to go to work.
That's amazing, though.
That really
Last
is
year,
amazing.
so that was 34 and a half, 35 years.
Yeah.
And it took that long.
I love
That's still unheard of.
I love it because I never had a job where I got bored. There was always something changing, a new process, a new tool, new people, new customers. Yeah.
So you had all the lead up, all
Yeah.
of the emotions that come with that. What do you feel now, I guess?
I'm extremely giddy. To be able to wake up in the morning and go, what do I want to do today? It's an absolutely outstanding feeling.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Give the microphone.
Please.
So this is about you, but the question is, how long do you think it will take Joanne to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I am bored out of my ever-loving mind and I need to do something?
I actually believe my friends have a bet about that. I'm just guessing. And it could be anywhere from a week to a month. I've worked since I was 11. I'm 58 now. I don't know how to not work.
You're the only one of our circle of friends that oftentimes was still working at 7 and would leave the party early on Saturday night because you had to work on Sunday after church. Could we have called you somewhat of a workaholic, or did you just have the kind of job that because of the global timeline, you were always on and needed to be available?
I'm an overachiever.
What would be your recommendation to anybody as far as retiring?
So everybody told me have a plan. Have a plan, have a plan, have a plan, because you need to separate work life from retired life. Our plan includes a 2-week break while we're still at home before we go on a vacation. Get away from the house to break up that time, because I need to be doing things. Whatever your passions are. I like walking, I like biking, I like hiking. Haven't done a lot of that in the last 30 years because my work life was took up a lot of my time. I've got a lot of interests that I'd like to explore, but never had a chance to.
Joanne's married.
Yes.
And she has a husband. So how do you prepare your husband for retirement?
Buy him lots of alcohol. Pete is a little nervous about me not working. Yeah, I've worked at home for the last 20 years, but I never see him because I'm in my office for 10 hours a day.
Except for lunch. You
Came
out for the lunch that he prepared
Yes.
you. Is he going to have to continue making lunch?
Well, yeah.
Okay, good. I was just wondering
But
whether
the
you were
rule
going to
is
start
now I
cooking.
have to do dishes. I'm okay with that because he cooks, as you know very well.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe you should just tell him you got a job, leave every day, go do something really fun, and then just come back
Yeah.
at the end of the day so that he'll just continue. If you go back through the archives of our episodes, we have referenced your shopping habits, and the only caveat was to stay on the south side of a comma. Does that change in retirement?
Well, see, I think.
I mean, let's get to the real important
If you don't
shit,
talk
Joanne.
about it, you don't have rules. So I figure that I can ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely.
right.
Instead of asking permission. And
Absolutely.
then if it's a problem, we'll talk about it. So the comma stands.
Comma stands. Cheers to that. Cheers to the comma.
Cheers to the
Yeah, we don't
comma.
want to lose that comma. Can you imagine what
Oh my
$1,000 would do at Marshall's?
Holy
good
crap.
Lord.
Holy shit!
You'd have to have multiple carts.
I'd need another
yes.
closet.
That's hilarious.
So you're going to go to Disneyland, you're going to go all those fun things, but this is the giddy time. I feel like 6 months from now is when
Sure.
the real conversation begins.
So I can remember when my dad retired, my mom had retired first. And so my mom was all pretty much in her routine.
Yeah.
And then he retired. Probably about 3 months in, they were ready to kill each other. They were not used
Yeah.
to that much time together. Now they're way past that now, and they have figured out the adjustments, and he's got his thing and she's got her thing, and they have
Yeah.
their together things. Is that something that you and Pete actually talked about?
Yeah,
Like
multiple
what
times.
to expect?
Multiple times. Some advice his brother gave us was 1 day a week, Pete needs to leave the house for 4 hours. Joanne gets the house to herself. 1 day a week, Joanne needs to leave, and Pete gets the house to himself 4 hours. So that
good.
you have time at home like you're used to.
That's
and
good.
So,
That's
great advice.
I
You
like
know,
that.
so we have been asking for advice from a lot of different people. The good thing is Pete and I talk a lot. There's no subject that's off bounds. You know, if something happens, we'll talk about it and we'll work through it.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really
That's
great
good.
advice.
Is that from
So,
Doug.
Besides the financial piece, do you think he has any other real concerns?
You're not moving, are you?
No, we're not moving.
Okay.
No, I think Pete's only concern is how much I'm going to manage his life now that I have free time.
We all knew that we were in trouble when George retired, and she came home rather, and all of the spices had been alphabetized. And she was like, what is happening to my life? My spices are now alphabetized.
Doesn't everybody do that?
The kitchen is pretty
Pete's.
much Pete's domain.
Yeah.
So I don't see you going into his domain,
Oh, no.
nor would you go into his wood shop
No.
and asked to learn how to use any of his wood tools.
I already know how to use them all. I've made things.
Episode is over. You have already kept
We've
a very
already done that.
separate life.
Pete's desk is Pete's desk.
Yeah.
I haven't been allowed to touch it since we got married.
If you were giving advice to young people, younger married people, and I talk about this all the time, and I talk about it with my kids. You be you, they be them, and you'll have a together part too, but if you lose all of that,
If you try to
lose-
pretend to be somebody different with your significant other, that's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, sure.
Talk about everything. I don't care if it's sex, I don't care if it's money, I don't care if it's how you raise your kids, where you go to church, if you go to church. Talk about it, because the more you talk about things, the more you understand where other people's boundaries are and what you can do and what maybe your significant other is sensitive about. Not that
Sure.
you want to ignore it.
I agree with that. That's great advice. All right, any other parting words of wisdom to anyone that's going to retire ever?
Well, hopefully
Do it
everybody returns.
earlier rather than later.
Amen.
Amen to
sister.
that.
Because this is going to be the next best life.
Cheers to that.
Oh my gosh.
Cheers.
And we're out of drinks anyway, so.
Maybe I should get that.
We
I'm
should
gonna
go
get
get
that.
And this is why editing is such a good feature.
Thank you, editing. Oh my gosh, yes.